So, funny story, I was about to upload my finished video, which included my predictions for Arc 3.0, and right before I did, Bungie did me the solid favor of going ahead and just dropping the Arc 3.0 article that they dropped today with all of the details. So that video is now in the trash can, and we're doing this one instead. And in this video, now that we have the information, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to be the meta approach to PvP next season based off of what we now know about the Arc 3.0 kit. So we'll hit each subclass. I won't go into deep detail. We're not going to be rereading this whole update that dropped today. I'm sure there's a million videos of people out there just reading word for word. That's not what we're doing in this video. In this video, we're going to be just kind of glossing over each subclass, what they're getting, and how that's going to affect the meta, and I'm going to pick one of these that I think is going to be meta-defining next season. And we'll start with that one, because I don't want to waste your time. We're going to kick things off with the Titan. I think Titan is going to be like the meta approach to PvP next season when I'm comparing apples to apples, the Titan, the Hunter, and the Warlock kits. This one just seems like it is unbelievably strong. And so, is it going to be overpowered? I don't know. Is it going to be strong? Abso-friggin-lutely. Listen, there's a few things happening with the Titan kit here that I want to hit. First and foremost, we don't get the Twilight Garrison, but what we do get is a new ability called Thruster. It's going to be your class ability. So I think is it going to replace your barricade, or is it just going to take your barricade charge when you use it? I'm not sure. Probably the latter, but we don't know for sure. But it's a class ability where double tapping the class ability button will activate the Titan thrusters, and you will burst and throttle in the direction that you're pointing, right? It says at speed, performing a quick first-person evade. So it's not like a third-person dodge roll like the Hunters get. You're going to remain in first person. I think that's actually kind of important to make the two distinct. You don't go into third person and get this whole 360-degree view that you get with the dodge roll, where you can kind of pop away from your character and get a quick lay of the land. But with the Titan Burst, you're going to stay in first person. You're going to keep that target in your eyes or right in front of you, right? And not only that, we're also getting Juggernaut back. So if you don't remember Juggernaut is that when you're sprinting with full class ability energy, you're going to get this shield that blocks incoming damage, right? It's not an overshield that gives you extra health. It is its own separate shield. When it gets popped, it does take your class ability charge away, so that's one thing to keep in mind. That might kind of help keep it grounded. If you're running Juggernaut with the thruster ability, there's some crazy stuff that can happen here. You think about the straight lining ability of Titans. Let me just start piecing some things together for you, and you can quickly start to realize how crazy this is. But if you're using the Antaeus wards, okay, you can be sprinting at somebody and slide when they start shooting you, and that's going to then give you full immunity and reflect any incoming damage back at the sender. So you've got the Antaeus wards. Now you're closer, you reflected damage, and now you're still sprinting. Now Juggernaut shield pops up around you, and they have to try to shoot that. And before they pop it, now you're going to double tap the class ability button, and you are going to thrust in their direction. Now let's say that you also have a glaive equipped, and you shoot them, and then you pop up this shield. Like, you are going to be an absolute tank as a Titan. And we also have the whole knockout ability where if you break a combatant's shield, you get extra melee damage and lunge, right? It's crazy. You are going to be an absolute brawling machine. I think these guys are going to just skyrocket to the top of the meta because of their capacity to close the gap on targets, reflect damage, soak up damage in a multitude of ways, and get that speed boost from the thruster ability. Not only that, but all of these subclasses have access to two other things, and that's these new hot words that we're getting for the Arc kit. So first you get this amplified buff. All Arc 3.0 subclasses have access to this. It makes you more agile, gives you a longer slide distance, which is helpful with the Antaeus ward. So if you've got the amplified buff up, then that's going to automatically just increase your capacity to close that gap faster and more safely. And then after sprinting for a few seconds while amplified, you'll then pick up another buff called Speed Booster, and they say it will make you as fast as we can make our sprint animation go. So all these things just stacking on each other just sounds like you're going to be a freight train, which is kind of what they said they were going for with the Titan. You're going to be a literal freight train, just unstoppable. So that's going to be catapulted to the top of the meta, I think. But when you're talking about is it OP, how can we counter something like this? That is a good question. I'm going to say it right out the gate. It's the answer to many questions lately. How do we stop this thing? The answer is stasis and Wither Horde. Those are going to be like two of your top options for countering something like this. If somebody is going to straight line you and tank up all that damage, you put the Wither Horde at on the ground in front of you, in between them and you. It's going to throw off that whole cadence. Is going to be disrupted with a one Wither Horde shot, or a wave frame launcher would probably be helpful as well, because the wave frame can't be reflected by Antaeus wards. Can't shoot that back. It's not a projectile. So those are some good options. Like I said, stasis. If you put a wall up in their face, they can't do that, right? If you got the Glacier Grenade equipped, you throw that baby down, boom, it's disrupted. Same thing with the Dusk Field. If you put the Dusk Field down and they try to do that through a Dusk Field, they're going to get slowed in their tracks. You're going to be able to counter them. It's going to disrupt the sprint, so they're not going to get the speed boost anymore because they're not sprinting. They're not going to get Juggernaut anymore because they can't sprint through the Dusk Field. They're not going to get the Antaeus wards. Everything just goes immediately to pot when you throw a Dust Field down to disrupt that. And then obviously you've got the Cold Snap grenades with the Osmiomancy gloves on the Shade Binder. You've got the Rift that freezes, the Frost Pulse Rift. Lots of stasis ways to completely 100% hard counter this approach. So if you are getting a Trials team together for next season, make sure you dedicate one person on your team to be the stasis hard counter to aggressive Titans who are just going to ape you, okay? I think that's going to definitely come in handy. But that's my prediction. I think Titan's going to go straight to the top. Other than that, I think that on the upper end of the skill gap, I think Arc Striders are going to be popular. And this is kind of how I felt about Arc Striders for a long time now. Obviously, their kit got kind of left in the dust as everything else progressed, making them less desirable. But the Arc subclass for Hunters has always, in my opinion, been one of the most rewarding ways to play the game if you are a high-skill player. Because a lot of the things that are in there, the cadence, the rhythmic approach to combat with the dodge, punch, and then the various buffs that you get to your movement speed, to your handling, all of that stuff is still there. In fact, it's going to be even better than ever for the Arc Strider. So if you are on the higher end of the skill ceiling, right, higher end of the skill gap, I think you can capitalize on those buffs a lot better as an Arc Hunter. And then Blink now, you've got Blink as a Hunter, which is going to be incredibly helpful. So all of those things are going to make, I think, if you are a really good hand cannon shotgun player, hey, the Hunter Arc Strider is going to be pretty freaking good for exactly that kind of a player. I think specifically you're going to see a lot of hand cannon shotgun Arc Striders go straight to the top of the meta, but it's only going to be, I think, accessible to players who are above average in terms of player skill. They're going to be able to capitalize on all of those buffs and execute those maneuvers swimmingly. So that's my other prediction. As far as Warlocks go, Warlocks have some pretty cool stuff. I know I'm a little bit, I will admit my bias. I think that's a really important thing to do, and I try to be honest with you guys when I make videos like this. I will admit my bias. I play all subclasses, but I do play Warlock more. If I main anything, it would have to be Warlock. And I will say that I feel like Warlocks on paper continue to get less. I will say that some of the chaining stuff here looks pretty cool, like having the enhanced Ball of Lightning melee ability that can give extra electric zappies. That's pretty cool. But the one thing that really stands out to me is the Lightning Surge. So this is a new melee ability, and this is how they described it. They said the Warlock activates their melee while sliding to transform into a ball of lightning and teleport forward, calling down a field of lightning bolts at the exit point that jolts targets. So I think this is really going to be the ticket here. So that's going to give you, I think you're going to want to lead with that. So if you were, say, running the transversive steps, so you already have that mobility boost, you're reloading your guns, and then you slide, you activate the melee ability, and you exit that melee ability. You jolt the target, they're already tagged up, and then you finish off with like a shotgun, or I mean, I suppose you could use anything. You could use a fusion rifle, but I think that would be counterintuitive because the charge time of the fusion rifle wouldn't let you capitalize on this sort of like surprise moment, you know what I mean? So I think you'd want to actually finish them off with something like a shotgun, or even a sidearm or an SMG. But I think the shotgun's the obvious choice here. And then when you kill somebody who is hit with that jolting debuff already, then you get to capitalize on that buff additionally, because you have this aspect called electrostatic mind. And when you finish off an enemy that's hit with an arc debuff, like the jolt debuff, then they're going to create an ionic trace. You pick up that ionic trace, you become amplified again, and you get cooldown energy towards your abilities anyways, like your lightning surge that you just used. So I think comboing lightning surge and electrostatic mind, those are the two aspects. Comboing those two things is going to be the meta approach for the Warlocks. I think Arc Soul is going to be less popular. Arc Souls are good, don't get me wrong, they're very good, but I think that the synergy between electrostatic mind and lightning surge are really where it's at. So those are my predictions for these subclasses and how they'll play out, and what things are going to end up being popular. But again, one thing to keep in mind is that we don't know. There's two big factors that are unknown right now. One of them is your artifact abilities, like the artifact mods that are going to be coming in the following season, right? The season that's coming out next week. Who knows? I mean, it could have something like Classy Restoration, which would literally define an entire season's worth of PvP, right? So that's a big unknown factor right there. The other big unknown factor is obviously the exotic armor pieces that we're going to be getting that might synergize with the new art kit, like think Caliban's Hand, think Laurel's Splendor, the way that these things interacted with the new abilities that we got and took them to just a completely new level. So those are the two biggest unknown factors that might shake things up as well. But knowing what we know, these are the predictions that I'm making. We'll see how they play out. What are your predictions? What do you think is going to be problematic? What do you think is going to be potentially broken or overpowered? Or do you think that these things are actually sounding like they're going to be powerful but not breaking anything? Are you excited about them, or are you dreading them? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for watching the video. Feel free to leave a like on it if you enjoyed it, as that is the best free way to support content creators here on YouTube Gaming. Feel free to subscribe for additional Destiny 2 content. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.